House of the Dragon, Episode 5. Let's get into it. We start off in the Riverlands with Lord Oscar Tully, Lord Roderick Dustin, and Lord Piper discussing how best to deal with Sir Criston Cole and his guerrilla attacks. He's been burning river crossings and attacking their camps at night. While Dustin wants to hunt them down with his winter wolves, the young Lord Tully has other plans. He wants to race ahead with some other horse and secure the next crossing at the Stony Sept, and he also wants to pay them back in kind with some of their dirty military tactics that they've been doing. They've done a really good job with Oscar Tully in the show. He's young, but he's cunning, and he's also got strong military instincts, and he's able to think outside the box. After their meeting, Cole silently attacks the camp, killing Lord Piper and burning a bunch of tents before fading back into the trees like ghosts. These small victories for Cole and Gawain are short-lived as his small band starts to dwindle away due to just losing men on the raids, exposure, and now desertion. Lord Tully's men also hides caltrops in the forest, taking out their horses, which makes travel even harder for them. When they finally reach the Stony Sept, they found that the bridge has already been burned and the Black's army has already crossed. Gawain stays optimistic as he can while trying to convince Cole to fall back to Tumblestone with his cousin Ormond. He even offers him a place in Old Town where he'd be welcome and honored in the service of the High Towers. But Sir Criston is done with service, and ever seeing dragons unleashed at Rook's Rest, he knows they're all as good as dead against them. So he's resigned himself to a warrior's death on his own terms. This finally sinks into Gawain, and he ends up leaving the group and heads to Tumblestone on his own with a few of his supporters. This is the completion of Cole's character arc, and we'll probably see what was called the Butcher's Ball coming up most likely in the next episode. At Harrenhal, Alice Rivers has many visitors seeking out Prince Aemond. Ever since Rhaenyra put a bounty on his head for whoever kills Aemond gets a lordship and Harrenhal, every hedge knight in the realm is coming to collect. Alice manages to scare off the first wave of slayers, but the next groups have no fear of ghosts or her. Aemond appears and slaughters a group coming to her rescue. It turns out Alice has been hiding Aemond there all along, nursing him back to health after he was stabbed in the back. This seems pretty far-fetched for me because when Sir Criston and Gawain came to Harrenhal, they most likely would have had the castle searched, and they probably wouldn't have taken her for her word. They don't know Alice. She's not a loyal supporter of theirs. It just doesn't really make any sense. They just went, oh yeah, sure, he's not here. We believe you. Well, here we are. In the book, Aemond doesn't even get injured and nursed by Alice. They simply just have a kind of like a mistress relationship after he takes the castle. Looks like they're doing this as a way to flesh out Aemond's character more and delve deeper into his psychological trauma from his childhood and his mommy issues. Speaking of childhood trauma, Aegon has ventured into the forest with Sir Larys in tow, hell-bent on finding his brother to kill him. Larys does his best to get him to return to the camp, but Aegon is determined. This next scene made me love Larys' character for the first time in the show. Aegon begins whining about all the hardships he's had growing up and the gifts that Aemond had that he didn't, both physically and mentally, and Larys just can't take it anymore. No manipulation, no ego stroking for his own gain. He just destroys Aegon with hard truths. He was raised the firstborn son of the king. He had the finest tutors and master of arms in the kingdom. Filthy rich and had every advantage in life, but chose to be lazy and useless. Drink and whore his days away. Everything that has happened is his own making and no one else's fault. That he was not only a terrible king, but he's also a terrible man, which I think hits Aegon harder because the weight of the crown is hard for even the best and most capable of people, and you can almost forgive him on some levels for some of his shortcomings with it. Even King Robert is a good example of this. He was a great warrior, amazing friend to people. The people loved him, but he was complacent and he was a terrible king. Larys leaves him with that, abandoning him and heads back to Rook's Rest without him. Aegon eventually shows up there as well because in his condition he has no chance out on his own. Then guess who finds them and shows up and isn't dead after all? Tywin Lannister has survived the Battle of the Gullet and is still loyal to Aegon's cause. He wants to take him back to Castle Rock and keep him safe until he can recrown him at a later time. Larys insists on they go to Essos, where he's already made arrangements, and he thinks that would be the safer choice. While they debate, Janos, the guy who runs the town, finds Aegon's crown in one of their sacks and plans to lord it over Aegon. This doesn't go as he plans at all, because Aegon sees it and stabs him to death immediately. In Tumblestone, Ormond has had coins minted in Darren's likeliness, and I'm not overly fond of his character, but we do get a really good bit of dialogue here as Ormond tells Darren about the Yellow Toad, who was the Princess of Dorne, who defied the Targaryens and dragons since the conquest. Now, I've read all the source material, so this was great for me to kind of follow along as he told the tale, but it was a lesson for Darren about outsmarting your enemies no matter what the odds are stacked against you. This poor kid is always on eggshells around his adopted father, never knowing if he's one word or one game of Savas. away from a meltdown from Ormond. In King's Landing, Daemon is investigating into the murders of the Gold Cloaks and keeping the loyalty of the men in line, since they aren't getting wages at the moment. These killings only fuel Rhaenyra's paranoia as she sees enemies in every shadows, and surprisingly, it is Daemon who's being the level-headed one and trying to keep her on course. But even with his best efforts, she's still alienating people around her, just like she did to Lord Corlys. This time, it's the Lady Frey, who has come to join the small council. She's irate with her because Harrenhal was promised to them by her son Jace for letting the Northmen into the Riverlands across their bridge. She sits with Lord Manderley now, next in the small council meeting, and they share some playful banter back and forth while he informs her who everyone is and what their drama is, and lets her in on their dysfunctional group. Daemon, being the only one person contributing these days, uncovers Ormond is behind the killing, sending messages into the city, paying newly minted gold coins for every gold cloak killed. Rhaenyra and him begin to argue in front of the council, and then they privately have a conversation afterwards, where she basically doesn't like the fact that he questions her rule. She's queen, and she reminds him that, he's loyal to her and he's supposed to listen to her. But honestly, he's an expert in this situation, so he's going to handle it. Daemon molded the gold cloaks into what they are today, and centuries later in the original series, they're still there. And it's crazy that she just doesn't trust him with this, with all the experience he has in the security of the city. His nickname is literally the Prince of Flea Bottom. Who better to handle this? She continues her fears, and she argues with him again in the Sept of Baelor later on, and most of the conversation happens in High Valyrian, so no one else can listen in. Rhaenyra is mentally drowning as these episodes go on, and Daemon is doing his best to hold it all together. She recalls her son Joffrey from the Vale, but doesn't make time to see him after he arrives, just showing once again she's prioritizing the wrong things. Alicent tries to get Helaena to abort the baby that she found out about last episode and has Master Oral make her some moon tea. Helaena is having none of this, and Alicent is forced to drink it herself just to hide the baby secret from Lady Mysaria, who questions her about the tea. Her discomfort was for nothing after all, because when they try to escape later dressed as serving women, Mysaria finds them again and then makes Alicent spill the beans on everything. Alicent works some manipulation on Mysaria about her position in court and lets her know her silence would be appreciated if she ever needed the Green's support in the future. Now, Helaena wouldn't drink the tea to kill the baby, but Alicent convinces her to abandon her daughter, which seems unlikely. She does, though, and then she randomly finds a hidden door in the room, and they both end up getting lost within the tunnels of the Red Keep, and that's how they leave them at the end of the episode. The show's taking a lot of liberties here, trying to keep some of the characters' storylines interesting and creating these high-stress situations that really aren't needed overall, in my opinion. The episode ends with Daemon finding the leadership council of the Gold Cloaks, including Sir Luther Largent, murdered at a table, written on the wall, "A feast for traitors." Overall, this episode was very strong and had a lot of great interactions and dialogue between the characters. I'm really loving Daemon's development the best. He's been a very one-dimensional character for me, season to season, but now I'm actually seeing some growth with him, and he's thinking like a ruler, he's keeping a calm head, he's solving the problems that need to be solved, and he's adapting to situations. Viserys would be proud.